Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my updated defensive settings that I am using right now in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM. And in all honesty, I've been having a lot of success with in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM in this season. I've been playing a decent amount of MyTEAM, believe it or not. Despite all the frustrations surrounding the game mode, I've actually been playing a good amount of the game and honestly having a decent amount of fun and having a lot of success. I am 27-8 this season. I think one of them was an error code as well, so 27-7. And in all honesty, all of the losses were stream games. Literally every loss was a game on stream. And those games, I'm just not as focused. Like, I feel like I could easily be 30 something and 2 or 3. Like, I do not think I should have very many losses at all, in all honesty. And I feel like I've actually been playing very well as of late. So I think I'm credible enough to give good advice here when it comes to these settings. So hopefully this video does help a lot of y'all out. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 25,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day. Tons of consistent daily MyTEAM content. Without further ado, let's start off by talking about defensive settings. In case you were not aware, you can save your defensive settings in your coaching menu here, and they will save across all of your settings for all of your teams, whatever you change these settings to. In this coaching tab, in whatever lineup you want to, you come down here to where it says Coach Game Plan, and it pops up defensive settings. You cannot change offensive settings and different stuff like that in this, but you can change defensive settings. So I am going to explain, number one, how I change my defensive settings, and then how I change them. Another thing that I tend to do when it comes to settings that just depends on the card in a lot of ways. But before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me. I said that already, didn't I? What am I talking about? I apologize. Let's start with on-ball pressure. I go on-ball pressure on Smother for primary ball handler type cards, 3 hunting cards, shot creating cards. I leave it on moderate for non-shot creators, guys who aren't really going to be putting the ball on the floor a ton. A lot of bigs, guys with slower releases as well. Really, really great slashers who are more so slashers than they are shooters. I will also generally put on moderate, and I don't really generally do anything other than moderate or Smother personally. I do change this depending on the player, though, I will say. So I will go into a game, and depending on what I match up against, say I match up against, let's just pretend I match up against my lineup. For context, if I match up against Caruso, Kobe, Tyrese Thomas, D-Rob, and Hakeem, Tyrese and Kobe are 100% going on Smother. Caruso's probably going on Smother as well. D-Rob and Hakeem are staying on moderate. Off the bench, Reeves is 100% on Smother. Iggy and Braun are kind of debatable because their releases aren't extraordinary. And also, I do think they're big time slashing threats. So Braun, I'd probably leave on moderate for the most part. Iggy probably would Smother because he's got such a good fade as well, and he does move really well. But I don't know, that you can kind of play with it a little bit depending on the matchups and depending on who you play against. Tyson and Dino would both be on moderate. Shea would be on Smother. Wiggins would probably be on Smother, although that one's debatable as well. And then KP would definitely be on moderate. So there you go. That's kind of how I do that on-ball setting. The off-ball setting, I will leave on moderate for almost every single card. You can put this on tight if you want to against really, really good shooters with elite level releases and stuff. But in general, I don't think that's all that necessary. I know some people like to put it on deny ball because they get like CPU steals from having it on deny ball. They'll get a good amount of CPU steals and lane steals and stuff. And I understand that, but you leave yourself very vulnerable in my mind to getting backdoored if you leave it on deny ball. I feel like moderate gives you more of an opportunity to read and react and just an opportunity to do different things. So I think it just unlocks it. It makes it a little bit easier, I feel like, defensively off the ball. And I feel like moderate is generally close enough to get a contest on pretty close to any release as well, especially with the way the contest system works this year. The only thing I would change on off-ball pressure is sometimes I'll put guys on gap who have slow releases. For example, 100 overall Shaq, maybe a Pink Diamond Wimby, a Opal Giannis, even 100 overall like Kareem. Guys who have slower, mediocre releases are generally the cards that I look to put on gap. Other than that, I leave it on moderate though. So for most cards at this point in the year, off-ball pressure is on moderate. On-ball screen, I used to mess with this. I used to put this on go over, go under, and I do mess with it for individual cards. But as a base setting, I generally leave this on automatic. I will say for especially like big time 300s, cards that are coming off of screens and fading, cards that are top tier 300s with really good sigs, and we are starting to get to a lot more of those cards. I'll generally put those guys on go over. For example, with my lineup again, I would probably be putting Kobe, Tyrese, and Reeves on go over. Everybody else would be on automatic. A true non-shooter who doesn't have a very good release, like for example, if you played against Pink Diamond Draymond Green or Pink Diamond Magic or somebody like that, I might consider putting their on-ball screen on go under, but outside of that, I think go over is or just leaving it on automatic is generally your best bet. I like to touch my hedge settings. I leave the on-ball screen center setting alone, so that one I don't do anything about. Force direction I also leave alone. I don't think there's any point to that one. Hedge and hedge center. I put these both on no hedge quite simply just because I don't want my center hedging or whoever is guarding the screener hedging high themselves. I want to be able to control myself, and this is where icon control is so important, especially defensively, being able to icon switch around and stuff. But I want to be able to control every aspect of the defense myself. I don't want my CPUs doing things and hedging high and doing their own thing on possessions. I want to be pretty safe when it comes to the CPU defense, not take too many risks, and be able to control most of what I do and most of my rotations and all that type of stuff myself. So I like no hedge for the center and just regular hedge setting. Stay attached. I used to put this on yes or always or whatever. For this year, it feels like it messes with X switching when you put this on, and I think X switching is really important to be able to do effectively defensively. So for a couple months now, I've been leaving this on automatic. I think in my last video, I had this on automatic as well, but I just think that's worth reiterating as well. I don't touch this setting anymore. I used to put it on stay attached, yes, or always, I guess, but now I don't. Off-ball screen, I do not touch. Post, I do not touch. All the double team settings, I definitely don't want to touch. Me personally, I do not want my CPUs double teaming and leaving guys open. That would be really annoying. But I know people like to use auto switch and will switch all and stuff like that, and then off-ball in the corner with switch all and stuff. It's very annoying to play against, and it's a very, in my opinion, low-skill defense. I highly encourage y'all as my team players to learn how to play defense skillfully, even if sitting in the corner and off-balling and switching screens and stuff like that is generally effective against the majority of the community, which it is effective against the majority of the community. Even if that is the case, I highly encourage y'all to learn how to play defense skillfully. And I also think it's very likely that off-ball defense will not be nearly as good as it is this year, next year. And if that's the case, people who have been so reliant on the off-ball this year for their defense might be in for a relatively steep learning curve defensively. So I highly recommend becoming a skillful defender yourself and not relying on your cards and the game's poor programming to do everything for you. Outside of that, screen help, drive help, and cutter help, these settings have always been on no help and continue to be. I do not want my CPUs helping and leaving stuff open and rotating out of position by themselves. If I want to help and I want to rotate, I will control that myself. Again, that is the importance and the crucialness of the whole concept, I guess, of being able to control everything yourself and wanting to have this on no help. And defensively, that's kind of the whole concept of my defense, is being able to control as much as possible. That's, again, why it's so important to know how to use your icons properly and all that type of stuff. But that is also the last defensive setting that I touch. So it's pretty simple, in all honesty, the defensive settings that I do. They're not that complicated, but hopefully that gives y'all a good amount of explanation to the logic at which I use my defensive settings and how they work, and also how I change some of them depending on the card. Now, offensive settings are much simpler. Just in case y'all aren't aware, I'm just going to hop into a domination game really quickly just to show y'all what I do, just because it's super duper simple. I literally would go in here to settings, I come over to game plan, down to offensive settings, come down to this first freelance slot, put one of 5 out, Bucks 2018, or comp freelance on, really any of them. Recently, I've been using 5 out, but all 3 of them basically do the same thing. None of them are perfect, but definitely want to make sure you have a freelance on, and then you have to make sure you activate the freelance in-game every single game. You have to go into your settings, you got to put your freelance on in that slot, and then when you are on offense, you have to activate the freelance as well every single game. So very important to note that as well, for those of y'all who may not be aware about how that works. And all you do is go right on the D-pad, hit your right button, and then hit whatever slot, whatever icon is the slot that you get your spacing in, and there you go. Look how much 5-out spacing I have right now. My offense is so much more well spaced out now than it would be otherwise if I didn't have that freelance on. So that is right there is the only offensive setting that I touch. Now, I will say coach settings, generally I want to leave these off. You can change these in the main menu in the 2K main menu, just to turn adaptive coaching engine off, turn timeout, player minutes, and substitution to manual. For me personally, I think that's the best way to do those settings. I want, like, if you look at other settings, you can look at these, and I want my opponent shot feedback on. I want all shots on for shot feedback. My controller settings, I have my vibration off. I have my shot timing personally on set point. The only meter that I like is the layup meter. I find it kind of useful, but the other 2 meters, free throw and jump shot, I don't think are all that necessary, nor particularly useful. And in general, that's it for my settings. So that's literally basically everything there there is to tell y'all. So hopefully that helps y'all out a lot, because I basically gave y'all all the sauce from my settings and what I'm doing right now, and I've been having a lot of success with it. So hopefully this video does help a lot of y'all out, both offensively and defensively. And if so, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.